Hello everyone, welcome back to Arpita ki NCERT Kaksha, and today we are starting with chapter number 4 of Politics in India since Independence, class 12th NCERT that we are covering. Class 12th NCERT have two NCERTs, basically class 12th में दो NCERTs हैं. We are starting with the first NCERT which is Politics in India since Independence, यानी कि हमें जब से आज़ादी मिली तब से कैसे हमारा political scenario change हुआ, how our decisions changed, how it influenced our relations with other nations and domestically also. Okay, so let's get started. Now, when we talk about post-independence period, that means when we got independent, after that what happened? We were facing a lot of challenges. We know we have studied in the previous lectures that we were facing economic challenges, the challenge related to the development of the economy of the nation. And there were other challenges also. For example, reconstruction challenges. How to reconstruct our nation now that we have, independence. Now we have full control over our nation. Now how to reconstruct it? We have different states that have joined us. We have different princely states that have joined us. Then we faced partition also. And after all of this, how to reconstruct our nation, our Bharat? Then we faced the twin challenges of welfare and democracy. Now, have you listened to the, Independence Day speech of Prime Minister Narendra Modi? He said that we are facing the twin challenges of corruption and nepotism. तो अभी इंडिपेंडेंस डे पे जो स्पीच दी गई है ना प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी के द्वारा, उन्होंने कहा है कि ये हमारे ट्विन चैलेंजेस है जो हम फेस कर रहे हैं, करप्शन और नेपोटिज्म. दीज आर द ट्विन चैलेंजेस करंटली इन 2022 दैट वी आर फेसिंग. बट बैक इन द टाइम ऑफ 1950s era, post independence time, and at that time the twin challenges were ensuring welfare of our people and strengthening the democracy, because we had just established democracy at that time. ठीक है, so this is how with changing times the challenges also changes. जैसे जैसे समय बदलता है वैसे वैसे आपके आगे आने वाले challenges भी बदलते हैं. So always remember, no matter how worse the situation is, always remember there is always a solution and the problems never ends यार. If today the problem is how to be motivated and focused, tomorrow when you will become an IAS officer, the problem will be related to district management, administration, or some other family problems. So always remember, problems will come and go. New problems will arise every new day. But always remember, what stays is your own mental will. What stays with you is your faith, your hope, your strength, your inner power. Okay? So India also had different challenges at different eras. But what made us, fight those challenges was our determination, strength, and our intellect, our brain. Okay? And our hope for a better future. So here another challenge was poverty alleviation. So to remove poverty, to maintain welfare of the people, to establish strong democracy and to reconstruct the nation were the problems that India was facing post independence. This is how a flow chart is made when you study a book. जब आप कोई किताब पढ़ते हो और आपको नोट्स बनाने होते हैं तो इस तरीके से फ्लो चार्ट्स बनते हैं. The entire paragraph has been summed up in just flow chart manner, in this flow chart construct. Now, when we talk about the post-independence challenge, one challenge was also there, a very subtle challenge was there, and that was our foreign relations. Write it down, establishing strong foreign relations. This was also a very subtle challenge that India was facing at that time. So, what was our aim behind conducting the foreign relations? See, we did conduct foreign relations. We did establish relations with other nations. So, what was the aim after independence? India का मकसद क्या था? Foreign relations establish करने के पीछे का. So, the aim, देखो, whatever you do in life, you always have an aim. You never live your life aimlessly. Even a rickshaw puller lives his life with the aim that he will earn, good amount of money. He will, make sure that his children go to good quality schools. They will get good quality education. So everybody, big or small, even an ant has an aim when, the ants collect, the fodder for the winters. तो उनके पास भी एक एम होता है. तो एम ना एक ऐसी ड्राइव है. एम इज a drive that basically fuels us to live this life more passionately. So India also had an aim behind conducting its foreign relation. Aim was to respect sovereignty of all other nations. So we will conduct our relations in such a manner that the integrity and sovereignty of other nations is also respected. That shows India ka spiritual side. This particular aim shows India's spiritual side, that we should live in such a way that everybody else, has their own respect, dignity and integrity maintained. इस तरीके से जीवन जियो कि भाई आसपास आपके सब लोग अपने इंटेग्रिटी सेल्फ रिस्पेक्ट मेंटेन करके रखें. ये नहीं कि अंधाधुंध जी रहे हैं, दूसरों की सेल्फ रिस्पेक्ट इंटेग्रिटी की पड़ी ही नहीं है. नहीं, this is the spiritual side of India that basically makes India stand apart from all the other countries in the world. And second aim was to achieve security through maintenance of peace. See, here again a spiritual side of India is reflected. Yes, we have to achieve security. We have to secure our borders. We have to secure our position globally. But through what? Not through wars. Through maintenance of peace. शांति establish करके हम अपनी security ensure करेंगे. लड़ाइयाँ लड़के, जंग लड़के, mass killings करके नहीं. ठीक है? So this again reflects India's spiritual side, the side that makes other countries respect India. आज के टाइम पे in 2022 if you see, globally India is being respected for its foreign relations, foreign stances. And what influences the foreign policy of a nation? किसी भी nation का, not just India, any nation, what influences the foreign policies that a nation makes? First, the nation's own domestic environment. Domestic environment is built up because of the people and the leader of the nation, the relation between the leader of the nation and the citizen of the nation, that makes up the domestic environment. कि भाई अगर citizens ही leader से खुश नहीं है तो domestic environment disturbed होगा. कैसे foreign policy बना पाओगे जब अपने खुद के नागरिकों को आप अपने कंट्रोल में या अपने होल्ड में या अपने समर्थन में नहीं लेकर आ पा रहे हो. ठीक है. एंड सेकेंडली इन्वायरमेंट, इंटरनेशनल इन्वायरमेंट, कि भाई इफ देर इज अ वॉर गोइंग ऑन बिटवीन टू नेशंस, फॉर एग्जांपल रशिया एंड यूक्रेन आर एट वॉर एंड दैट हैज इन्फ्लुएंस्ड आवर ओन डोमेस्टिक पॉलिसीज टू सच अ ग्रेट एक्सटेंट. इन्फ्लेशन इज कमिंग अप, recession period is coming up. Why? Because of all these international chaos that is going on right now. Right? So domestic environment and international environment influences the foreign policy of any nation. And specifically when it comes to India, the aim behind starting and building our foreign relations was, first is to respect the sovereignty, dignity and integrity of all the other nations. We should never harm their integrity and their respect. And second was to achieve security, yes, but not through wars or violent means, but through the establishment of peace. Okay, यहाँ तक point आपको clear हो गया? This page is clear? Okay. Now, when we talk about developing nation, India is a part of developing nation. When we talk about developing nation, the developing nation basically has some more modest goals. कुछ ऐसे modest goals, एक subtle goals होते हैं हर developing nation के. Their goal is to focus on peace and development because they are developing right now. And when you are developing, you cannot indulge in full-fledged huge wars. बिकॉज अभी आप एक डेवलपिंग स्टेज में हो, यहाँ पर आप हाथ पैर नहीं मार सकते या बहुत ज्यादा वॉर्स में इंडल्ज नहीं हो सकते हो. यहाँ आपको शांति से अपने डेवलपमेंट को बढ़ाना है. यू हैव, इफ यू वांट टू एक्सपैंड, इफ यू वांट टू रीच टू द डेवलप्ड स्टेज, यू हैव टू यूज पीस इन योर ओन नेबरहुड. जहाँ पड़ोसी के साथ आपकी लड़ाई हो रखी है, आप कैसे अपने आप को एक्सपैंड कर पाओगे? कोई ना कोई अड़चन पड़ोसी जरूर लेकर आएंगे, राइट? बट वहीं अगर पड़ोसियों से दोस्ती है आपकी तो आप फटाफट डेवलप करोगे, आपकी किसी भी काम में कोई अड़चन नहीं डालेगा. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, जस्ट लेट्स टेक अ वेरी स्मॉल एग्जाम्पल. इफ दिस इज अ पर्सन ए एंड ही हैज अ वेरी बैड रिलेशन विद द नेबर्स एंड ही इज परचेजिंग ह्यूज कार्स लाइक BMW, Porsche खरीद रहे हैं. नाउ इफ द रिलेशन विद द नेबर्स इज बैड, they will try to obstruct the parking of his cars. Right? And he will not know, rato somebody will hit his car, right? If the neighbors are jealous of him, neighbors are not happy with him, with his nature, and the relation is not good, they will try to harm his car, his other activities that he undertakes. If he conducts any function or party, they will try to obstruct it. So if on the other hand this person A has a good relation with his neighbors, very friendly terms with his neighbors, then he will never face any obstruction during any of his chores or functions or festivals that he celebrate or any car that he purchases. बल्कि हो सकता है कि वो कल को सोसाइटी का प्रेसिडेंट ही बन जाए. ठीक है? तो ये एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल है बताने के लिए कि कैसे अगर आप डेवलपिंग स्टेज में हो तो आपको सबके साथ पीस और हार्मनी बनाकर रखनी चाहिए, स्पेसिफिकली अपने नेबरहुड में. And this is the same policy that India also adopted. Now, during that time, when we were getting independence, economic and security dependence was more on powerful states. हमारी जो economic और security dependence थी, वो powerful states पे थोड़ी सी ज़्यादा थी, because we were trying to look up to them. In the last lecture, in the planned development lecture, we studied that for us the definition of modernism was taken from the West. So for modernism also we were looking towards the West. Okay, so I will not say that we were completely dependent on the West, but yes, we were taking certain ideas and we were getting influenced in a certain bit, in a certain, you can say, manner with the modern Western states also. And after Second World War, जैसे ही Second World War खत्म हुआ, the division of countries started. And we know that after Second World War, we saw the beginning of the Cold War. Now, what exactly is the Cold War? Cold War basically is the relation between a सास and a बहू. Okay? देखो सास और बहू में कैसा relation होता है कि सामने एक दूसरे को कुछ कह नहीं रही हैं, बट एक दूसरे से थोड़ा सा खुंदक खाकर बैठी हैं, बातचीत नहीं कर रही हैं. When you and your siblings fight, what happens? Cold War happens. ठीक है, you will not talk to your sibling for a few days. That is Cold War. ठीक है, आप सारे काम कर रहे हो घर के, you are even calling your sibling out for dinner and lunch also if your mom says so, but you are not talking to your sibling. जितना मम्मी कह रही है उतनी बात हो रही है, जितना पापा कह रहे हैं उतनी conversation हो रही है, वरना कोई बातचीत नहीं. That is Cold War. ठीक है, तो यही हो गया कोल्ड वॉर. दिस वॉज स्टार्टिंग बिटवीन यूएस, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स एंड सोवियत यूनियन, दैट इज यूएसएसआर. So two camps were formed and the nations worldwide were divided into these two camps. Some nations they joined US, some nations they joined the camp of USSR, and Cold War started after Second World War. Now, when it comes to the period of 1946 to 64, we know we were under the prime ministership of Jawaharlal Nehru ji. So 1946 से 64 के period में ना, this Cold War period influenced and formulated and the India's foreign policy. ठीक है, ये कोल्ड वॉर ने ना काफी हद तक इम्पैक्ट किया था हमारे फॉरेन पॉलिसी को. एंड जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी ऑल्सो फॉर्मुलेटेड द फॉरेन पॉलिसी इन दिस पीरियड ओनली. So yes, our foreign policies were influenced to a large extent with this Cold War which was starting. Now, Jawaharlal Nehru ji had three major objectives when he formulated the foreign policy of India. First objective was, yes, to preserve hard-earned sovereignty of India. We had put in so much amount of sweat and blood to win our independence back. We cannot just be dominated. Let us get dominated by the foreign countries or international nations. हम ऐसा नहीं करने दे सकते थे बाहर की कंट्रीज को कि भाई तुम आकर हमारी पॉलिसीज को इन्फ्लुएंस करो. नहीं, राइट. हमने बहुत मुश्किल से, बहुत मेहनत से ये सोवरेंटी, ये फ्रीडम अटेन की थी. एंड हियर वी हैड टू मेक सर्टेन such kind of foreign policies that are not influenced or not dominated by other nations. This was the first major objective, कि whatever policy we frame, we will make sure that our hard-earned sovereignty is maintained, okay, is protected. Second, to protect the territorial integrity, we have to make sure that our territories are protected. हमें ये भी make sure करना है कि हमारी territory जो है वो protected है. ठीक है, टेरिटरी का कोई मिसयूज नहीं कर रहा है, कोई अंदर घुसने की कोशिश नहीं कर रहा है. वी कैन नॉट लेट एनी नेशन एंटर आवर टेरिटरी विद द एम ऑफ overpowering us or dominating us. We had won our independence back with great difficulty and we cannot let it slip away like that. हम अपनी आज़ादी को इतनी आसानी से स्लिप अवे नहीं होने देंगे. This was a very huge decision of making a foreign policy, right? And third was to promote rapid economic development. This we have already studied in the last chapter कि भैया हमें economic development भी बढ़ाना है, because Cold War is going on, formation of blocks and groupism is going on internationally, so we have to make sure that our economy is also strong. Okay, and all these three objectives were inculcated in the strategy called non-alignment. Non-alignment was the brainchild of Jawaharlal Nehru ji. He said that I am not going to align my nation with any group that is being formed over here. US and USSR का जो ग्रुप बन रहा है, मैं अपने आप को इनके साथ अलाइन नहीं करने वाला हूँ. ठीक है, पॉइंट क्लियर हुआ? Okay, still now non-aligned movement summit is conducted, if you know about it. अब न्यूज़पेपर में आप पढ़ते ही होंगे कि अभी भी नॉन अलाइनमेंट का जो समिट है वो कंडक्ट होता है. Now when we talk about the non-alignment movement that Jawaharlal Nehru ji started, the principles of non-alignment movement were guided by the principles of the Panchsheel agreement that was signed between India and China later on. Now this Panchsheel agreement was signed later on, right? Before that the non-aligned movement came into existence. But yes, Jawaharlal Nehru ji used the same kind of principles in the non-aligned movement as well. फर्स्ट ऑफ सच प्रिंसिपल्स वर रिस्पेक्ट. देखो इंडिया में ना हमेशा सबसे पहले हम रिस्पेक्ट सामने रखते हैं, ठीक है. रिस्पेक्ट हमारे लिए प्रायोरिटी होता है, बिकॉज इफ यू आर रिस्पेक्टेड और इफ द अदर पर्सन इज रिस्पेक्टेड, द रिलेशंस ग्रो मच मोर स्ट्रांगली. जहां रिस्पेक्ट नहीं है ना, वहां पर रिलेशन चाहे आप कितने भी मीठा बोल लो, अच्छे नहीं बन पाते हैं. Always remember during your administration also, don't think that you have just cleared this exam so you can treat people any way possible. No, once you clear this exam, it's your duty to serve the people. So whoever comes to you with the motive of seeking help, you have to give respect to that person. With respect only your administration will shine. ओके आप रिस्पेक्ट दोगे सामने वाले को, जो भी आपसे हेल्प लेने आ रहा है, क्योंकि आपने जो एग्जाम क्लियर किया है वो एग्जाम इसीलिए बनाया गया है ताकि आप लोगों को सर्व कर सको, ठीक है. तो जब आप लोगों को सर्व करने के लिए ही इस एग्जाम की तैयारी कर रहे हो, आपका मेन एंड गोल क्या है? टू सर्व पीपल. दैट इज व्हाई यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर दिस एग्जाम. ऑल दीज हाउस कार्स दे विल कम आफ्टर, दे विल कम एनी हाउ. इफ यू आर अगर आप इवन इफ यू आर इन योर प्राइवेट सेक्टर जॉब, इफ यू आर डूइंग गुड, you earn good and you can get house and servants and everything. But here you are not studying for house or servant or cars or cook etc. You are studying for this exam to serve people. क्योंकि अगर आप नहीं हेल्प करोगे लोगों की रूट लेवल पर, तो कौन करेगा? And when you establish relations with other people at the root levels, the first and foremost thing that you need to remember is respect. सामने वाला कितना पढ़ा लिखा है, कितना नहीं पढ़ा लिखा है, उससे आप रिस्पेक्ट डिटरमाइन नहीं करोगे. रिस्पेक्ट एज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग आप करोगे. सो इन आवर प्रिंसिपल्स आल्सो वी हैव टोटल रिस्पेक्ट फॉर द इंटरनेशनल लॉ व्हेन इट कम्स टू एस्टैब्लिशिंग फॉरेन रिलेशंस. ओके. सेकंड इज पीसफुल सेटलमेंट. Now, if you are indulged in any kind of conflict, the first and foremost aim is to settle that conflict peacefully. Okay, these days we see the cases of road rages, right? Road rage के cases देखते हो ना कि जरा सा गाड़ी को इधर उधर से ठोक दिया तो बस गाड़ी से निकलकर मारने को एकदम उतारू हो जाते हैं लोग, ठीक है. So we need to make sure that whatever conflicts we are entering into, we have to resolve it peacefully, because then it leaves a very dark and deep imprint on our brains, on our mind, or on our consciousness. Same thing is applied in the NAM principle, that is peaceful settlement of any kind of international conflict in accordance with the international law. Okay. Then third is respecting the political, social, economical and cultural diversity of countries and people when we are establishing relation with the other nations. जब आप दूसरे नेशन के साथ रिलेशन establish कर रहे हो, तो हमें वहाँ के political scenario, social condition, economical condition and cultural diversity की भी respect करनी है, ठीक है. If you are establishing relation with Sri Lanka, you cannot disrespect their cultural diversity or their economical condition, and that is why India is helping Sri Lanka during its economical crisis right now. Okay, अभी भी drones का gift India ने अपनी तरफ से श्रीलंका को दिया है, showing that no matter what the condition is right now, we are always here to respect you, to support you, to help you in whichever way is possible for us. हमारे लिए जो भी तरीका possible है, हमारी capability में जितना भी है, हम उतनी आपकी मदद करेंगे, because yes, we have relations since ages with you. Okay, so this can be the example over here. India Sri Lanka relation का यहाँ पर आप example quote कर सकते हो, ठीक है. Point clear हो गया. Fourth one is non-interference in the internal affairs of the country. Whatever is happening domestically in your country, we are not going to poke our fingers into it. ओके आपके घर में कुछ भी देखो, फॉर एग्जाम्पल यू आर स्टैब्लिशिंग रिलेशन, यू हैव अ फ्रेंड, ठीक है, आपके किसी दोस्त के साथ बहुत अच्छे फ्रेंडली रिलेशन है. नाउ व्हाटएवर पॉलिटिक्स इज हैपनिंग इन हिज और हर हाउस, यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू इंटरफेयर इनटू इट. यस, यू विल सपोर्ट योर फ्रेंड, यस यू विल बी ऑलवेज देयर प्रेजेंट फॉर योर फ्रेंड. अगर आपका फ्रेंड डिमोटिवेटेड होगा, यू आर गोइंग टू मोटिवेट हिम. बट व्हाटएवर इज हैपनिंग बिटवीन हिज और हर फैमिली मेंबर्स, राइट, मम्मी पापा और सिस्टर्स और रिलेटिव्स और ब्रदर्स, you are not going to interfere in that affair. Okay, no state or group of states has the right to intervene either directly or indirectly, whatever the motive, in the internal affairs of any other state. Okay, so these are the major principles that are followed in the non-alignment movement. Okay, so you can also write over here. यहाँ पर भी देखो, this is the brainchild of Jawaharlal Nehru ji. So you have to study what was going on in his brain when he formulated this principle. All right. Now, behind for the principle or the motive behind formulation of non-aligned movement by Jawaharlal Nehru ji was to create an independent path in the world politics for India. दुनिया में जो पॉलिटिक्स हो रही है उसमें भारत का अपना खुद का स्टैंड होना चाहिए. भारत और इंडिया should have its own voice, should have its own stand in the world politics. We should never be, a pawn in the hand of major powers or major countries. That was the agenda behind formulating the non-aligned movement. Non-aligned movement, basically you can say, identifies the right of independent judgment. Okay, to give that particular strength and authority to a particular nation or to itself for voicing your own opinions and views. ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई हमने किसी ग्रुप को ज्वाइन कर रखा है, वो हमारे व्यूज उनसे नहीं मिल रहे तब भी हमें उनके अंडर रहना पड़ेगा. नहीं, आपके जो व्यूज है आप बिल्कुल इंडिपेंडेंटली आके सामने अपने व्यूज रखो. इसीलिए नॉन अलाइन मूवमेंट को एस्टैब्लिश किया गया था. मेनी नेशंस, फॉर एग्जांपल द अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज, अलाइंड विद इंडिया इन द नॉन अलाइन मूवमेंट. दैट इज व्हाई द समिट इज कंडक्टेड टिल टुडे. आज भी नॉन अलाइन मूवमेंट का समिट कंडक्ट किया जाता है. All right. So this was the major aim of Jawaharlal Nehru ji when he formulated NAM, that is NAM. Now please take a screenshot of this particular flowchart because it is not there in the PDF of the lecture. PDF में है नहीं है, तो इसीलिए फटाफट से इसका एक screenshot ले लीजिए. All right. So I guess you have taken the screenshot over here. Okay. Now another question is this NAM as a concept still relevant? क्या आज भी ये जो नॉन अलाइन मूवमेंट का कॉन्सेप्ट है रेलेवेंट है? बिकॉज नाउ वी हैव स्ट्रांगली established ourselves as a global independent nation. So is this relevant? The answer is yes. It can never be irrelevant. Because basically NAM was decided, it was formulated. Why? To make sure that the developing countries or the poor countries or the small countries, at different multilateral platforms, they are independent. They can raise their voice. They can project their opinions without getting influenced by strong, dominant, developed nations. Okay. So NAM as a platform can never go irrelevant. It principally provides a strong base to foreign policy of its members. It should be seen as a strategic autonomy, which is the need of the hour of today's world. And NAM is a platform where India also can assert its soft power. It can provide active leadership by becoming a torch bearer for small countries. Okay, and it should be used as a platform to raise global issues like trade protectionism, terrorism, etc. It can be used to garner support, to gain support by Southeast Asian countries like the Philippines, Malaysia against Chinese assertion in the South China Sea. And NAM can provide a platform for Afro-Asian cooperation and also strong position for the poor African nation to have healthy negotiations with China and US for their own economic development. So this is why NAM as a concept can never go irrelevant. Please take a screenshot of this particular slide because it is not there in the PDF. ये आपके PDF में नहीं है, तो इसका एक ना छोटा सा screenshot फटाफट से आप ले लीजिए. I hope you have taken the screenshot. All right. Now another important question is, we have studied why foreign policies are important. We have studied how Jawaharlal Nehru had major objectives in his mind when he was making foreign policies. But another question is, can one person decide for the foreign policy of the entire nation? क्या सिर्फ एक इंसान प्राइम मिनिस्टर होने के नाते सिर्फ वो डिसीजन ले सकता है और उसके डिसीजन को सब मान्य करेंगे? और इज कंसेंसस रिक्वायर्ड इन फॉरेन पॉलिसी मैटर्स? क्या सबकी सहमति, द consensus of everybody, the permission or the you can say opinion of everybody matters in the foreign policy? Yes or no? The answer is yes. If your father comes one day and decides that I am going to purchase this property, I am going to give this part of my wealth to my brother or sister or my friends or colleagues, your wife's say or his wife's say or your mother's say is equally important as that of your father. ऐसा नहीं कि in every family, in any family, just the father cannot take the decisions alone. Wife का भी यहाँ पर equal say होता है. Similarly, if you are married, you cannot take the decisions of for your family alone. You also need consensus in your decision from your wife, from your children. आप अकेले बैठ के कोई डिसीजन नहीं लेते हो, राइट? क्या होता है, आप अपने पत्नी या पति या फिर बच्चों के साथ मिलकर कोई डिसीजन लेते हो. सो कंसेंसस व्हेन इट इज रिक्वायर्ड इन योर हाउस, yes, it is again required in the country's foreign policy matters as well. So when we talk about Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, we know that he was both the prime minister and the foreign minister, right? So between 1946 to 64, he had a very crucial, very important role in making up the national agenda for foreign policy. That is why we studied his objectives, his aims behind formulating the foreign policy of our nation. And as the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, he had a very profound, very grave influence on both the formulation and implementation of India's foreign policy. Now, when we talk about the India's foreign policy, the conduct of India's foreign policy has been more or less based on consensus only. Even though we know that it was Pandit Nehru whose beliefs and ideals guided and shaped the foreign policy principles, though in some nature it was criticized also, but yes, all these foreign policy decisions that Pandit Nehru took, they were passed only after a series of debates and negotiations and deliberations in the parliament. तभी तो हमारा पार्लियामेंट्री फॉर्म ऑफ गवर्नमेंट है, क्योंकि हम जो भी पॉलिसी यहाँ पर जो भी मिनिस्टर निकालता है उसको अच्छे से उस पर डिबेट होता है, डिस्कशन होता है. भले ही ब्रेन पंडित नेहरू का था, बट इसके ऊपर भी ऑन दोस फॉरेन पॉलिसी मैटर्स आल्सो इन पार्लियामेंट डिस्कशंस वर टेकन आउट, नेगोशिएशंस, deliberations were made. Okay, and we know that Indian politics is generally marked by a broad agreement among the parties on national level also, international level also. Okay, and that is why our foreign policy was not just the decision of one person, but yes, there was consensus which was involved in the foreign policy matters. Now, for example, now you will ask, ma'am, what can be the example of such situation? When the NAM policy was being framed, every political party was asked to present their own opinions and views in the discussion. And Swatantra Party criticized India's policy of NAM. Swatantra Party wanted our government to join the US bloc. Okay, so it's an example that yes, the opinions of all the parties is taken, the criticism is also accepted. And the present government, हमारी जो बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट है, present government है, we may give the example of the present government also, which because it is sticking to India's stand of no first use, in terms of its nuclear policy. जब nuclear policy की बात आती है तो हमारी strict firm policy है कि हम सबसे पहले अपनी तरफ से nuclear हथियार नहीं उठाएंगे. Okay, because we are based on the foundation of peace. All right, so these can be the examples that can be used. Now when it comes to quoting the government's name, अभी आप आंसर्स में ना बीजेपी गवर्नमेंट नहीं मेंशन करेंगे, जो प्रेजेंट गवर्नमेंट है हम उसकी जगह लिखेंगे प्रेजेंट गवर्नमेंट, उनका नाम मेंशन नहीं करेंगे, वी विल राइट प्रेजेंट गवर्नमेंट. आप पास्ट में गवर्नमेंट पार्टीज का नाम मेंशन कर सकते हो, बट व्हेन यू आर राइटिंग योर आंसर्स इन 2023 और 22, मेक श्योर दैट instead of BJP government you write the present government or the incumbent government. Okay, so these can be the examples in this matter. I hope you have taken a screenshot of this slide also, because ये slide भी आपकी PDF में mentioned नहीं है. ये मतलब basically I'm trying to help you out in formulating answers related to mains also. Okay, so you can take a screenshot of this particular slide. So when we talk about foreign policy, it is the sum total of the principles, interest and objectives that a state formulates while conducting its relation with other states. आप क्या principles, क्या interest, क्या objectives, क्या aims formulate कर रहे हो अपने रिश्ते establish करने के लिए बाकी states के साथ, वो आपका foreign policy हो जाता है. Alright, so whenever a question comes on foreign policy, make sure first you define what is foreign policy. Open up your answer with the definition or explanation of foreign policy. Now, when a country is newly independent, जब एक country अभी नई बनी होती है, in that case, what is more important? क्या सबसे ज़्यादा important होता है इस केस में? First is to shape your own, foreign relations, for foreign policies. And second is to preserve your territorial existence, your integrity, your sovereignty also. पहला तो important point ये होता है कि foreign policy बनाते वक्त कि आपको shape करना है कि आप क्या idea लेकर foreign relations establish करोगे. ठीक है, कैसा structure होगा आपकी foreign policies का. Second होता है during establishing your foreign relations, we have to make sure that our territory is also protected, our integrity and sovereignty is also protected. So for any country, the task or the aim of shaping a foreign policy is colossal, but it is significant also. And India also framed its own foreign policy after due consideration of the situations that were going on. Because we got independence, we had just come out of the Second World War, and there was a Cold War going on. So, keeping all those factors in mind, we took or formulated our own foreign policy, that was NAM, non-aligned movement. Okay, and this was the, basically the you can say way how the foreign policies are determined. Okay. Now, another important question which comes is that we know that Jawaharlal Nehru ji was the Prime Minister and the Foreign Ministers between 1946 to 64. Now, the question is, why did Jawaharlal Nehru regard conduct of the foreign relation as an essential indicator of independence? पंडित नेहरू जी हमेशा ये बोला करते थे कि फॉरेन रिलेशंस पे अगर आपकी कमांड है, ठीक है, अगर फॉरेन रिलेशंस आपके अच्छे हैं तो वो आपके इंडिपेंडेंस का एक बहुत ही अच्छा और बहुत ही स्ट्रॉन्ग इंडिकेटर है. Okay, you are truly independent if you have full command on your foreign relations, if your foreign relations are strong and smooth. We know that Pandit Nehru ji was a very profound statesman, very learned personality, and for him the sovereignty of a nation was supreme. Now, what is the meaning of the term sovereignty? So, sovereignty means supreme power or authority, the authority of a state to govern itself. तो sovereignty मतलब क्या होता है? सेल्फ गवर्निंग. ठीक है, तो अगर एक नेशन सुप्रीम तभी है जब वो सोवरेन है, जब उसकी सोवरेनिटी इंटैक्ट है, मेंटेन्ड है. पॉइंट क्लियर हो गए यहाँ तक सभी को? ऑल राइट, लेट्स मूव फॉरवर्ड. नाउ पंडित नेहरू जी ऑलवेज यूज्ड टू से दैट फॉरेन रिलेशंस इज द एसेंस ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस. इनका हमेशा कहना यही था कि India should take independent stand. India should be very you can say expressive. It should be very expressive. And he believed that foreign policy of a country forms its basic character in the entire world, and the independence of any nation consists of the foreign relations. Because if your foreign relations are weak, then anybody can come at any time and dominate you. अगर आपके foreign relations ही weak हैं, तो कोई भी किसी भी time आकर आपको dominate कर सकता है. That is why to maintain strong foreign relations is very important for the independence of a nation. And that is why he signed the Panchsheel Treaty or Treaty of Non-Interference and Cooperation with China also after, the disputes regarding the boundaries between India and China. तो हमने यहाँ पर ये नेहरू जी ने ये पॉइंट दिखाया है कि इंडिपेंडेंस के लिए फॉरेन रिलेशन अच्छे होना काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है, और एक सोवरेन, एक ऑटोनॉमस फॉरेन रिलेशन होना जिसमें बाहर कोई आपके काम में, इंटरनल अफेयर्स में इंटरफेयर ना करे, ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. दैट इज व्हाई इंडिया नेवर इंटरफेयर्स इन द डोमेस्टिक मैटर्स ऑफ श्रीलंका. राइट? व्हाई? श्रीलंका को हम हेल्प करते हैं, वी हेल्प श्रीलंका, बट वी डू नॉट इंटरफेयर इन द डोमेस्टिक मैटर्स. व्हाई? बिकॉज इट इज द एसेंस ऑफ आवर फॉरेन रिलेशंस. Okay, we provide full sovereignty and full freedom to the other nation also in its own conduct of domestic matters or domestic issues. And why Nehru ji used to say that independence for for making sure that you are fully independent, your foreign relations should be very strong, your foreign policies should be very should give you expression of opinion and speech and view. The reason was India was born in the backdrop of Cold War. When we got our independence, we had just come out of the Second World War. We were facing the Cold War, wherein two blocks were getting formed, USA and USSR. But Nehru ji did not join any of these blocks. Nehru ji very specifically said that India would never be a part of either USA's block or USSR's block. Why? Because we need to make sure that we are not dominated by any superpower or developed nation. We are still in the developing stage. If we still let the other developed and superpower countries dominate us or be our leader, that would undermine our independence. And that is why he formulated the non-aligned movement. He also urged newly independent countries of Africa and Southeast Asia to not be aligned with any of the superpowers in order to make sure that their independence is maintained. Point clear हो रहा है? So this is the reason why Nehru ji used to say that foreign relation is a very important and very essential part of the freedom of any nation. Point clear हुआ यहाँ तक सभी को? All right, very good. Now in currently in 2022 there are 120 member countries which are a part of NAM. Right? Okay, समझ आ गया. For example, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, even Pakistan, Bangladesh, they are the part of NAM. China is the observer country in NAM. All the African countries except the Western Sahara and South Sudan are members of NAM. So you have to remember that this is not just a small effort taken by Nehruji, but it had a very huge, deep, everlasting, long-lasting impact on the foreign relations of the countries. Now the next question is, does the political leadership of a nation affect its foreign policy? What is your answer? Take a moment, take a few seconds time and just think about the answer. कि क्या किसी कंट्री की फॉरेन पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप उसकी फॉरेन पॉलिसी को इम्पैक्ट करती है? Yes or no? Yes, the answer is yes. It has a very deep impact on the foreign policy of the nation. The first major example how a political leadership can impact and reflect its foreign policy is the example of non-alignment. ये जो नॉन अलाइनमेंट तैयार किया था ड्यूरिंग दिस फॉर्मुलेशन ऑफ दिस पॉलिसी, नेहरू जी हैड अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल. India's first Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he played a very important role in setting the national agenda. During the Cold War time, when the countries were divided into different groups, in two major groups, at that time Nehruji came up with the non-alignment idea. He was a major influence in the formulation and implementation of India's foreign policy from 1946 to 64. Now, second example how political leadership reflects its foreign policy is through the Panchsheel Agreement. Write it down. Through the Panchsheel Agreement that we signed with China. Here, the objective of Nehruji's foreign policies were reflected, and those were threefold. There were three objectives in Nehruji's foreign policy, which could be seen in the Panchsheel Agreement as well: sovereignty, protection of territorial integrity of not just our nation but other countries' territory also, and promotion of economic development. The third very important and very famous example of this particular line that political leadership reflects the foreign policy is the revolutionary change which was brought by Indira Gandhi in India's foreign policy when she signed the Treaty of Friendship with 1971. Now, why did she sign this Treaty of Friendship in 1971 with the Soviet Union? Because at that time, East Pakistan crisis was going on. बांग्लादेश का वॉर चल रहा था ना 1971 का, when Bangladesh wanted to get itself liberated from Pakistan, right? At that time, India supported Bangladesh. India also, acted as a, you can say a friendly country for providing refugee to the people of Bangladesh who were leaving their country, amidst the war which was going on. And at that time, US and China were supporting Pakistan. US was saying that India should not interfere. बट इंडिया क्या कर रहा था? जो लोग वहां से बांग्लादेश से ईस्ट पाकिस्तान से भागकर आ रहे थे उनको शरण दे रहा था. Okay, so when US, China and Pakistan axis was building up, at that time Indira Gandhi ji, she signed Treaty of Friendship in 1971 with USSR, wherein USSR promised India that yes, we are going to protect you and your borders if somebody attacks you. Treaty of Friendship में हमें पता चला जब US और चाइना मिलकर पाकिस्तान का साथ दे रहे हैं तो हम USSR के पास गए, उनसे फ्रेंडशिप की ट्रीटी, संधि ट्रीटी जो है वो साइन की और ये वादा लिया कि अगर हम पर कोई अटैक करता है तो USSR हमारे डिफेंस में खड़ा होगा. This was a very huge revolutionary change in India's foreign policy because India was remaining non-aligned throughout the Cold War, but now we did not join any bloc. Indira Gandhi was very very clever in this case. हमारी जो लीडरशिप है उसमें क्लेवरनेस दिखनी चाहिए कि हमने ये नहीं बताया कि हम नॉन अलाइन से पीछे हट रहे हैं. नो, वी आर साइनिंग अ फ्रेंडशिप ट्रीटी विद यू. हम एक दोस्त की तरह आपके पास आ रहे हैं कि अगर हमें इस एंडेवर में कोई परेशान करता है तो आप हमारे रक्षक की तरह हमारे साथ खड़े रहिएगा. एंड करेंटली ऑल्सो under the leadership of Narendra Modi, India has formed successful relations with many countries. We are also trying to form a balance between the US and Russia. So yes, we can say that the political leadership greatly influences the foreign policy of a country. And the political leadership can also either build a strong patriotic country or it can build a weak and divided country. Okay, it all depends on the political leadership. It can even strengthen the technological abilities of its nation. So these are some of the examples how political leadership affects its foreign policy. India has also worked upon its nuclear strength because see, initially when we got independence, India had limited resources. And with scarce resources, we started to divert them to defense sector also, especially after 1962. India-China का war हुआ था 1960 में, ठीक है? After 1960s Sino-India war, we learned a very huge lesson that we need to strengthen our defense sector also. So, in the initial stages of the development planning, we embarked on a military modernization journey, wherein we established in November 1962 the Department of Defense Production. The Department of Defense Supplies was established in 1965. देखो हमारा ये जो पॉलिसी है ना वो नो फर्स्ट यूज की पॉलिसी है. यस वी हैव द न्यूक्लियर कैपेबिलिटी बट वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू यूज इट फर्स्ट. ठीक है, अनटिल एंड अनलेस कि यहाँ पर आप बहुत ही ज्यादा एक्सट्रीम ग्रेव सिचुएशन आ जाए, हमारे पास ये पॉलिसी है, हम कभी वायलेंस एज अ फर्स्ट मीन्स ऑफ रिजॉर्ट यूज नहीं करेंगे. वी आर नॉट नेवर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट विद वायलेंस, नो. Okay, so India has opposed the international treaties aimed at non-proliferation since they were selectively applicable to the non-nuclear powers and legitimized the monopoly of 5 nuclear weapon powers. So India has opposed the indefinite extension of the non-proliferation treaty in 1995. We also refused to sign the CTBT Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. देखो we have been carrying out the nuclear test but still we always have maintained a no first use policy. We will be stronger in the nuclear area also. ऐसा नहीं है कि we are not, just because we are using peace we will become weak. No, we are developing a nuclear strength, but with strength comes responsibility. Even if we are developing that strength of nuclear power, of becoming a nuclear giant, but we will use that strength in only brave and dire situations because we think of peace and people before entering into any war. We are also conducting series of nuclear test. हमने मई 1998 में demonstrate किया था अपनी capacity, but हमने ये भी demonstrate किया है कि वो capacity, वो strength हम धमकी के तौर पे use नहीं करेंगे. We never will make our nuclear strength as a threat to anybody. We will make sure that everybody knows that we are also capable, but we will always use the peaceful means initially. Okay, so this was your chapter for today. ये था आपका आज का chapter. This is your homework question for today. 4 questions है, total 60 marks का test होगा. First question, why did Nehru regard conduct of foreign relations as an essential indicator of independence? State any 2 reasons with examples to support your answer. Just now we have studied this कि नेहरू जी foreign relations को ही हम independence का indicator क्यों मानते थे. Then write short note on consensus in foreign policy matters. We have studied this also. India's nuclear policy. No first use policy को आपको यहाँ पर explain करना है and ये भी explain करना है कि we are developing our nuclear strength, very passionately. Question number 3, how does political leadership of a nation affect its foreign policy? Explain this with help of examples. Again, this is an easy question. We have just discussed it. 4th, NAM, that is the non-alignment movement as a concept can never be irrelevant. Explain. Again, very easy question. Just now we have studied all these topics. So I hope you will, write the answers today after going through the lecture. उम्मीद करती हूँ आज lecture अच्छे से पढ़ने के बाद आप answers भी इसके attempt करेंगे. And if you have any doubt, let me know in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this lecture.